morning and welcome to Conversations on Craft, the podcast that aims to demystify the publishing process and help writers improve their craft. And today I'm thrilled to be welcomed by Katie Huttlestone, whose debut A Healthy Appetite publishes with Dead Ink on the 13th of August 2026. And her debut follows Hannah, who has spent a decade battling cancer and unsuccessful rounds of treatment. Hannah's now 30 and existing in a hinterland between life and death. What an incredible pitch. Katie, so lovely to have you today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
We're going to begin with our quickfire round. So are you a planner or a discovery writer?
Discovery writer.
Me too. It's always a bit risky, I think, being a discovery writer. It's a bit writing into the dark.
Definitely. I like it.
Your favourite genre?
Literary fiction with a horror tilt.
And one book you wish you had written?
Sophie McIntosh's The Water Cure.
Oh, that's a good one. Series or standalone?
Standalone.
And what, in your opinion, is the best thing about being a writer?
Community.
Oh, that's a beautiful answer, Katie.
And it's true. I really feel so supported and just so less alone since doing all of this. So yeah, it's brilliant.
Beautiful answer. We're going to start with your journey, and I recently watched on social media your unboxing video. Can you talk us through what that moment was like?
Yeah, I've seen so many authors create their unboxing video, and that sort of rite of passage, moment where they tear into it and they hold their copies for the first time. And I was it felt sort of like an out of body experience, really. And I think I'm still processing. I keep walking over to the little box and just picking them up and just looking at them. But everyone was so enthusiastic and so complimentary about the finished copies. So, it was definitely one of those pinch me moments, and one of those moments that I think will take just a little bit of time to really sink in. So in a way, I'm glad it's filmed because I can go back and I can be like, no, that happened.
Yes, it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your cover is beautiful, isn't it? Please check it out on social media. You're very active on Instagram. And what was it like seeing your cover for the first time? Because it's such a striking cover.
Yeah, I was so pleased with how it ended up. So Luke Bird did my cover, and he was recently awarded Cover Artist of the Year at the Book Awards. And he's got lots of accolades. And he's just, what he does really well is understanding exactly what the novel needs to make it be seen by readers in the first instance. So he does covers that are an amazing shortcut to the novel's themes. And so the guinea pig on the front, which has been very popular, it's my little mascot, is definitely just such a perfect choice. I remember seeing it for the first time. There was another option that he sent. There was another an alt version that was completely different. And at the time, my first sort of instinct was like, oh, I really like that other one. I can see that. And, I really like the guinea pig, but I think the colour schemes at first to sort of throw me off. And so we went back and forth and we did some different colourways. And when I saw the pink, I thought, no, this is it, because the pink works as the kind of the fleshy, the sort of passion, the desire, alongside the guinea pig as a perfect metaphor for someone on a medical trial, a human guinea pig. So, and just that little subtle, dribble of blood it's just the subtlety of it is what I love.
It's just so intriguing as a cover, because you see this very pink and the guinea pig, but then it's that blood that adds to the intrigue of, oh, what is a healthy appetite?
Yeah, exactly.
Can you describe where your novel sits in the market and why people should read it?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's actually one of those novels that's a little bit spiky. And when we were on submission the first time, I think certain editors at the bigger publishing houses were a little bit unsure, a little bit nervous about exactly where it would sit. And I think that's why Dead Ink was such a brilliant home for it in the first instance, because they love books that are not so easily defined and pigeonholed or placed in a box. And so, I would describe it as it's literary fiction, but with a kind of propulsiveness to it that sort of feels like you're reading something that could be a like a thriller. It's also been sort of situated in the horror genre. So if you look it up on like the Waterstones categories, it's literary, it's horror. So yeah, it sits on that cusp really, and I think that's really interesting. I love books that are sort of pushing boundaries and aren't necessarily feeding in to exactly a reader's expectations.
Getting in books sounds like the perfect home for your work, because our book club recently read, I think it's Monstrilio,
Yes, yeah.
which again could be a spiky novel, and it's very dark but yet very beautiful, and I think it sounds like such a perfect home for your work.
Yeah, that's a brilliant novel, and I think that's a really good comparison title as well for the sort of the tone and the feel of the text. So
Your debut, A Healthy Appetite, has been described as ferociously original, which I think is such a great description. And can you take us right back to when you got the first idea for the book?
yeah, absolutely. Let's be honest, this novel is in part drawn from my experiences with cancer, with late stage disease, and with what it is to live with that as a chronic illness full time. And so it's sort of the novel idea came from my body, it came from me. And it was one of those annoying moments that I think people don't always love to hear, which is I was just there. I was just existing, and the idea appeared, and it was that sort of bolt from the blue. Although I imagine it's been percolating, like I said, in my body for a long time. And I sort of had to dare myself. I had to say, you've been avoiding really, writing anything that taps into this area of your life for a long time. And is this the story now that you need to tell? And the answer was yes. And so Healthy Appetite was born.
Fantastic. And how much has it changed since that first percolation of the idea, and then your courage, I suppose, in thinking I'm going to write about this? Has it changed dramatically, or did it remain the same as that first glimmer of an idea?
Yeah, maybe another annoying answer, but I would say that it didn't change the terrible much at all. My first draft to my finished draft, there's still whole chapters that exist completely unchanged, apart from, like little line edits or little things in the copy edit. Lots of commas added, lots of commas. It seems I'm a bit shy on commas. Now I'm maybe overusing them in the new novel. Yeah, so in terms of like the general thrust of the story, I always had the idea that we would see a woman go from sort of an extreme to another extreme. So I began, I said at the beginning, I'm a discovery writer. I had the barest of bones of a plan, and it really was just a very simple little handwritten table that I did at a coffee shop, and I just put before and I put after, and I put the qualities of my character at the start of the novel and the qualities at the end. And that really, that was it. And if I look back at that table now, pretty much all of those things on that table are in the text. So
It sounds so simple, and yet what you've actually done is you've completely mapped out the arc and the change for your character. So
yeah.
I'm going to use that technique myself, because I often think the success of a story is down to how much you've changed as a reader or how much the characters have. And to track that arc in such a kind of clear, succinct way might help my feelings as a discovery writer in the future.
Yeah, now you say that, that's actually I always think like I'm not so good at giving out writing advice, because so much of what I do feels really instinctive, because I'm such a voracious reader and I'm an English teacher, so I've kind of internalized storytelling. But actually, if I unpick it, you're right. That idea of the before, the after, so much of any story is about a character's transformation or metamorphosis, whether it's literal, metaphorical, emotional. So anyone that's listening that's maybe in those very early stages could think about that. It's really, because it's not intimidating, is it? Just the idea of a really simple table, before, after.
Yeah. And I imagine because the joy of being a discovery writer is discovering it as you go. And so it doesn't take away from that, does it? Something as simple as a table.
Right.
Kind of still have the joy of discovering the story.
Yeah, because it's how. So the question then becomes how. How do we go from this? How do we go from that? What are the catalysts to that transformation? So there's still a lot of fun mystery in discovering the how, but we know the what, which is something, right?
Was A Healthy Appetite your first novel, or have you written novels before?
It's definitely not my first novel. I'm not ashamed of saying that whatsoever. I think it's really important that we're so transparent about the reality of any creative industry. I think it's incredibly rare for anyone to write their first novel and it to be picked up, and there to be that really beautiful straight line from wanting to getting. It's just so many undulations and highs and lows. So I wrote 2 novels before A Healthy Appetite. The first one, just me learning, just me, feeling it out. Can I get to the end of a manuscript? Can I write something that has beginning, middle, end? No success there with agents, which I've said before, and I'll say it again. With hindsight, I'm thrilled, because that wasn't the one, that wasn't my voice. And it took another manuscript after that to discover my voice, to discover my niche and the genre that I wanted to write in. So 2 novels firmly in the desk drawer that aren't going to ever come out again.
I always think it's so interesting to hear how many, because like you say, you think, oh, an incredible work that's published, and you just presume that this writer's just a genius. And actually, when someone says, oh, I've got 2 full novels that are buried away somewhere, yeah. So how many drafts did A Healthy Appetite take? So you say the idea didn't change very much. Was it just more line edits where you're inserting commas, or?
No, I suppose, again, to be really transparent, it was more sort of adding. There wasn't really any taking away. So my publisher actually asked for their Patreon, do you have any deleted scenes that we could use to send to our Patreon members? And I was like, no, I literally don't have any deleted scenes. But what I do have are in the actual book, scenes that I added. So, the main thing for me with my agent was, she wanted more from a certain character. She wanted more from a certain relationship. And so it was really about amping up those scenes, adding detail, adding more touch points with characters, stuff like that. And then when it was time with my agent, sort of similar again, really leaning in to the appetite, really, exaggerating and adding to the tension. And I think sort of we moved a little bit from the beginning to the end. So just a little bit of Tetris and stuff like that. So it's kind of tricky to talk about individual drafts, because I don't really have a thing where I'm like, okay, now I'm completely rewriting and then we're completely rewriting. So it's more sort of a labor of love that's quite complex and messy, but probably 3 key rounds, and then it was line edits and copy edits.
What's it like to go from a writer working on your own, because it can be so solitary, can't it, writing your own piece of work, to then being edited by your agent and your editor? What's that transference like?
I love it. I know that not everyone loves being edited, and it's really nerve-wracking. And certainly, some ideas that you might hear from an agent or an editor or a critique partner are not ideas that you want to hear, right? You don't have to take everything that's said, because all of this is so subjective. But what I love about receiving feedback is that collaborative energy that suddenly arrives in the story. I've actually got a call with my agent after this for book 2, and we're going to be discussing the editor's letter that she sent me. And, just this morning I was looking through the notes, and I've looked through them so many times, and they've just triggered ideas. Hearing other people's thoughts and suggestions have awoken me. Oh God, I can't believe I didn't think of that. And of course I need to do that. And so, it's nothing but enriching. It's brilliant, which is why, because it took so long for me to get an agent with, my 3rd manuscript. I was so happy to finally have someone on my team and someone to bounce ideas back and forth with.
Super. So your work, A Healthy Appetite, it was longlisted for the Lucy Cavendish Prize, and I love the Lucy. I enter every year. I just think it's such a wonderful competition. In 2024, can you talk us through how you used competitions and what the Lucy Cavendish listing meant for you as a writer?
Yeah, absolutely. Lucy Cavendish Prize is so brilliant. It's one of those ones that are quite prestigious, and up until that point I'd entered lots of competitions, really just all of them, any that I could see, mainly the ones that were free or that had feedback as part of it, which I think is great. And I hadn't really got anywhere with the last novels at all, and I started to feel a bit like, gosh, this is like probably not the right analogy, but sort of like, it's like the needle in the haystack thing. Like, it's just like, there's so many people that are hungry for this and that have amazing work and such talent. And I just started to feel a bit disillusioned. But the year that I entered, I was quite early in my first draft of A Healthy Appetite. And I thought, you know what, let's just do it. Let's enter it. And I remember when a friend had messaged me and said, congratulations, I've just seen. And, at the time I didn't have context for what she meant. So I was, what is it? What? And then she sent me the link, and that really was the moment where I felt this is, I was right. This is the novel that I've taken the risk on, that is the novel that I'm meant to write, and that other people can tell that I'm the author of this. So it was external validation. Competitions are external validation. They are also sort of a vote of trust in your work, which does matter when it comes to querying agents. So there is that. So it meant that suddenly my query emails had something tangible in it, something solid, that I could mention, because before that point I just felt, I don't have a creative writing master's, I don't have a creative writing degree, at that point I hadn't done any, writing courses, and I just thought, I'm a nobody. I don't have any credentials here, and it was that first vote for me. And it meant so much. And they're so supportive. They continue to support me even now, sharing stuff about my book and, just they're great. The other one was the Blue Pencil Agency pitch prize for fiction that I entered and that I was longlisted for in 2024. So again, that was really early stages of the draft. And that was another vote for confidence for the pitch, for the concept. Yeah. And we all know when we're querying as well how important that pitch is, to have something that's undeniable, that really piques, the professional's interest. So again, to know that it had that factor, that potential X factor in the pitch, it made me go into querying feeling a lot more confident that time around.
Can you share your work with beta readers at all? I'm as a founder of a writing competition, I'm also so conscious that not everyone can afford to enter writing competitions, and there are so many unseen barriers. So do you use beta readers at all as part of your process?
Yeah, absolutely. I love beta readers. I think it has to be, fellow writers, people that you trust, people that read like within your genre. And so who might be like a natural reader for the book, as I said. I always read beta readers. I like having a critique partner as well. One of my writing friends, I like it when our projects sort of sync up and we're able to we did like a weekly chapter swap.
Wow.
When I was writing it for the first time. And I know some people really hate to share anything really early on, and, that's also their preference. But for me, I really crave feedback. I love it so much. So competitions for me are a great means of really tapping into, is this project ready? Does it have potential? And of course, hopefully, some great accolades as well.
That's the writing teacher in you, Katie. It's like, give me my score. How have I done?
Desperate. I'm desperate for any kind of affirmation.
Yeah,
always.
What's as you talk, I can really sense your passion and enthusiasm for the writing process. Do you have a favourite part of writing?
I keep thinking about this, and I feel like I keep flip-flopping. And maybe it's just because when I'm writing it for the first time, it can be quite agonizing. Like, if we think about it, like the agony of sometimes the blood from the stone, the blank page. And, if a scene's if it's not arriving instantly, it can just be like, it can just make me feel awful, right? But I will say I do like that early sense of momentum if you can tap into it, and the sense of something coming alive. And when you can start seeing the shape of it, and it starts to feel valid, that's really satisfying. And of course, reaching that, the end moment, you're like, oh, I did it. So that's great. But I think probably I'm a bit of a sucker for a line edit. I love the minutiae. I love the almost surgical sort of attention to language. And that is probably the English teacher in me. Just like, is this the word? Is that word doing the most amount of work in that sentence? Is there something better? Killing adjectives, killing adverbs, whacking a sentence down, right down to what it needs to be. And that's super satisfying as well. I like that.
And am I correct in thinking you did the Faber course? Yeah. Can you talk us through how that helped you develop your craft, and at what point did you know you were ready for? Because it's quite a substantial course, isn't it? I believe, and very has a fantastic reputation. What was that decision point like, and then what was the experience for you?
Yeah, the decision point was after book 2 didn't get the agent. I remember saying to a friend at the time, I said, I don't think I can put myself through this again without some more support. I don't know anyone in the industry. I don't have any connections. I'm a working class person, etc. I'm a disabled person. I need some support. The course it's an investment financially, and I was lucky enough to have someone to support me with that financial choice. And I do think it's really tough that there is that financial barrier for people, and that it's just not something that's available to everyone. So I struggled with that for a little bit, that I felt quite a lot of guilt around being able to access it when other people couldn't. And then, that friend said to me, look, I'm giving you this opportunity. You can pay people back. You can support other writers in other ways, which I do like to do. I like to, if I have a writer friend that I'm talking to and they're in that stage of querying, I say, look, send me a query package. Let's look through it. Not that I'm some grand expert, but just having that other pair of eyes and looking through it. But anyway, with Faber, it is a prestigious course. You have to apply to it, and you have to, of course, get in. And so again, just being accepted onto the course was a bit like with the Lucy Cavendish Prize, a moment of, okay, like I've been taken seriously as a writer, and I have such imposter syndrome, and I can be so, I have so much disbelief around my potential and any talent I might have. And people get quite annoyed with me about it. I'm not, this was probably what it was. I wanted to do this so I could feel that I belong, that I could do this, that this is something that's open to me. And so, I loved it. I loved working with Jessica Moore, with a tutor, with the tutees. I mentioned community at the start of this and just the idea of working together and reading each other's work and all of that was so enriching. But yeah, I understand that it's just not available to everyone.
And I've always got the sense from you, Katie, that you are like extending your hand to pull up other writers. You did a blog post for a Scent Novel Prize, and just giving that information, having been through the process yourself, I really appreciate it myself. So thank you so much. I can see your ethos of helping others just really shines through from.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. And I think it's just important that it's such a hard industry. It's so opaque and expensive and competitive. It's never been harder. It has never been harder to be a published author ever, just factually speaking. And so if there's just any way that I can help other people and make it feel more welcoming, then I'll do that, because lots of people did that for me.
Wonderful. We're going to move on to how you found your agent next and the process you went through to find your agent. So can you talk us through that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I still queried. I absolutely still did the traditional, get the spreadsheet up, do all my research, look for the agents that would be appropriate, that are interested in the themes, etc. But at the end of the Faber course, there is the Faber anthology, which is this much coveted, it is potentially a way in or close to agents. And it was a very small little sample of just the opening of the story, a synopsis, and a very small bio. And that was sent around to all of the agents in the UK. And I had agents email me this time around.
Wow.
Yeah, there was this really wild inversion where suddenly I was like, hang on, you're emailing me. I'm not emailing you and waiting a long period because you're a very busy person. And so suddenly I had like a lot more full manuscript requests. Like,
So was this for a healthy appetite, Katie?
yeah.
Yeah.
And at one point, after a month or so, I had that email, the one that says we want a phone call. And I was like, again, just another moment of total disbelief. And had the phone call. It was an offer of representation. The agent was awesome. She was a junior agent, so she was sort of earlier in her career, really hungry, really keen to build her list. But once you have that first offer, you can then email all the other agents, right, that have falls or that you've queried to let them know and to update them. And that's where the strategy comes in. So you have to really say to them, even though it feels very weird, 2 weeks, you've got two weeks to consider. Let me know if you're interested. I have an offer of representation, but I'm still really interested in hearing from you. So my current agent was one of those people that I had nudged. She then read the manuscript and emailed me back pretty quickly after that point, because obviously it was time sensitive, and said she'd love a phone call as well. And yeah, just that wild moment of having, several agents, about other agents that were reading and really keen. But I had that phone call, and it was in that phone call that I really felt that the agent, Imogen, my now agent, spoiler alert, just really understood what I was trying to do. She was excited about it. She was driven to sell it. She represented authors on her list that were what felt like in a fairly similar wheelhouse. So, it was a business decision, but I felt it was really hard to say no to the other agent. I was really upset about it because I really, really liked her. And I hope she's doing really, really well with her career as well. I hope we cross paths again. But yeah, it was through the Faber anthology. It was through querying the two in tandem and just really being brave and putting myself out there.
Do you have any advice for what people should do in that situation? So on the call, is there anything that writers should look out for or ask for or listen out for in particular?
Yeah, I think my first piece of advice would be let them talk. So this is the time at which you want to hear from them. You want to hear what their vision for your book is. You want to hear where they see it on the market, and to make sure that those things are aligned with what you see and what you know about your book. You want to hear what comparison titles they think, like where would your novel sit? You want to hear their strategy as well. Like, what is their strategy for the actual process of submission? What is their communication style? And does that align with you is really important as well. And if you have a chronic illness, for example, it is important to have that conversation early to explain what your limitations are, what your needs are, and to ensure that they're receptive to that. And really is a personality match. It's about feeling that, whether it's in person or online, and seeing if you feel good, if you feel comfortable in that moment as well.
So like part head, but also part heart decision, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there has to be some tactics at play, and lots of reason. Can this work? Will this work? But also, does this feel good? So yeah, a mix of the two.
My ears pricked up, Katie, when you mentioned a spreadsheet, because I quite like a little spreadsheet on the side.
Oh, yeah. See, I'm not really a spreadsheet girly, and I have to admit, because I'm not much of a planner, I don't have anything that's beautifully intricate, but it was literally just, I think one of my writing friends sent me their version and I sort of edited it from there. I think it was just like, name of the agency, agents' names, when did I query, any extra information about them, and then a little row at the end that said, that was sort of like red, amber, green for where are we? Full manuscript request, rejection, query open. And I just make sure I update it, because I don't think there's probably not anything more embarrassing than accidentally querying the same agent, like you'd forgotten you'd done that, or querying two agents at the same agency, which is usually a faux pas unless there's been a significant period or there's been a passover or a recommendation. So I think a spreadsheet's really necessary for that process.
And what was your querying strategy? Did you do it in batches? Did you apply to lots all at once? Did your strategy change over the years?
I would say that batches have always been my approach. So I think 10 or up to 10 is a good first batch. I think it should be a mix of smaller, not smaller, agents that are sort of more junior in their position, and agents that are maybe more senior, just for there to be a variety. You might hear back from those agents that are more junior sooner, which could then lead on to you prompting those more senior agents. So it's quite helpful strategically to have a mix across a nice range of agencies. You might want, if there's one agency that you are so excited by, you might want to save them for round 2, just because if there's anything intrinsically wrong with your query and you're getting absolutely no response whatsoever, or you're getting just pure what do they call them again? Form rejections. If you're getting pure, then it might be we need to take a break. We need to get a beta. We need to, talk to someone about a query package, make sure it's working. So you're sort of trialing it in that first batch. But everyone works at their own pace. But I generally like the ethos of one in, one out. So if you get a rejection, try to send out something new, because then you've got that nice balancing of the scales and you don't feel that it's just rejection, which can be really hard psychologically to withstand.
I love that you're kind of switching the power almost, so that rejection, you're then opening another door for yourself. I really love that reframing of it. You mentioned earlier about how the pitch was key, and you kind of had this sense that for a healthy appetite, you knew the pitch was strong. Can you talk us through how you developed that pitch? Was it intrinsic to your novel idea, or did you work hard on the pitch?
Yeah, I definitely went back and forth with the pitch. I remember going to a Jericho writers weekend, and there was a session on pitch writing, and I remember really trying to whittle my pitch down, because at first it was a little bit the elevator pitch I'm talking about. So it's that really short, snappy, can I intrigue you about my novel in the time it would space for us to go, in an elevator, that swift sell. And so I remember working on that quite a bit, because I found it quite hard at first to be succinct, because especially with literary novels, it's the story isn't necessarily always that sort of really sexy one-liner, to be able to distill it down. So I had to work hard on that, and I had to sort of trial it quite a bit. And I still don't really sit with one pitch anymore. I have a few key phrases that I think are important to understanding my novel that I'll always use. But if I'm talking to someone, I sort of go for a more organic pitch. But in terms of the one for my query package, it was definitely, can I get it down to 1 or 2 sentences? I need character, I need setting, I need crisis, and sort of those 3 elements in that brief, punchy sort of pitch. So yeah, it's hard work, and it will go through different versions. Just keep trying, keep working on it, and eventually you'll land on something that piques people's interest. And you can just test it on your friends, and if they give like a general, oh, okay, that sounds, then you know that it's working.
This is going to put you on the spot now, Katie, but do you have your elevator pitch for a healthy appetite you could share with us?
Yeah, sure. I can give you one, a version of one. So a healthy appetite is a ravenous tale of morality versus mortality that sees Hannah, a patient in a phase 1 medical trial, grapple with an insatiable hunger as one of the side effects of the trial, a hunger that keeps growing and growing and growing.
Oh, that gave me tingles, Katie. That was wonderful. Because you've kind of expressed not only character, but core themes, and also like a dark conflict.
Yes.
So
yeah.
the pitch is doing so much.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Like character, sort of scenario, and then like a dark conflict.
Yeah.
It depends what genre it is, of course, or whatever the conflict is, whether it's dark or not. But yeah, I suppose those are the ingredients. So yeah,
I think that's a sexy pitch.
Thank you.
Yeah. But you also get the sense of it's very character driven.
Right.
So it's not just, you get that sense of the story, but also that literary character-driven novel that you would want from where your books sit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And because it is, and that's what sometimes makes pitches tricky. If it's a character driven novel, you can't really just sit, you are with that character, but you have to weave in the bigger themes. What makes this exciting? What makes it universal, especially if you have a character driven novel.
So next we're going to move on to your journey after you found your agent. And I often think that aspiring writers know so much about the agenting process, and then it's kind of a big unknown after we find an agent. Can you give us an insight into what happened after you kind of signed with Imogen?
Yeah. So after we did our edits, so we did any structural changes, any line edits, and, finished it all off. Imogen let me know what her strategy was in terms of who she was going to submit to. We sort of chose the time that we thought was suitable for the novel to go out on submission. There's a bit of strategy there. And then we waited. We discussed sort of what I would like to experience during that time. And I think I said to her, just email me with any updates, because I'm just the type of person that needs to know. Just email me with any updates, which she did. So we had quite a lot of immediate response. And I think, again, that is a testament to the strength of the pitch that we worked on. A lot of people very early, very interested and reading. A few early reluctant no's. Again, really like the writing, really like the story, but not quite sure where it would sit on the market, and a sort of a bit of a reluctance to take a risk there in those instances. We then had Christmas, so we had this sort of awkward Christmas moment where it was like, okay, we're on pause for a moment because no one's doing anything at Christmas. So I had a little bit of a break, which I quite liked, actually. It was about, a month and a half in. And I just thought, this is tough. It is tough to always be on high alert. So that little stopgap was great. And then we went back. And then we went back with round 2. So with round 2, we opened it up to some more indie publishers, sort of mid-sized publishers, which is when things really started to kick off. So I had 2 publishers, one of which was Dead Ink, that were really keen, that I had, calls with about taking it on and about their vision. Very similar, really, to when you have that first call with your agent, when you talk to that editor. Do our visions alive? What are the comp titles? Where do you see it in the market? What's your editorial vision? And I really loved both of the editors that I spoke to, but there was just something really strong in my gut telling me that Dead Ink was its home. And it felt so clear. And I felt bad because, the other publishers are great. They've had brilliant hits. And if anything, they might have been marginally a bigger publisher, but none of that mattered to me. It was about finding where I felt safe and finding the person that I knew I really wanted to work with, which was Harriet at Dead Ink. So I remember I just finished my period 5 lesson with my year 7s. And the trainee teacher was teaching and I was observing. And at the end of the lesson, she was packing away. I had a very quick look at my emails because teachers are terrible for looking at their emails all the time. And it was there. It was the email that I'd been waiting for forever, for so many years, from Imogen saying, we've got it. We've got our first offer in the bag. And let you know, do you want to, shall we do this? And for me, it was yes. So sign the contract. And then there's just a little bit of waiting again, lots of waiting and publishing for my editorial letter from Harriet. We had a video call. We spoke about changes, and then she gave me, like a generous deadline of how long I might need to do that, with, my chronic health issues in mind. Turns out I didn't need that long. I was really fired up. I was really ready to go. And I think I did my edits in like 3 or 4 weeks.
Never.
And I remember her emailing back and she was like, what? Why? What? You've done them all. And I thought, oh gosh, she's going to think I've rushed them. But it just turned out that it coincided with a school holiday. And I just lived and breathed it every single day, working on it. And I spent a long time on it, but I did it. And she was really happy with all the changes. And she was like, right, well, we're going to go onto the line edit, which we did, and copy edit. And then done. And, all those brilliant things like cover design and having your first marketing meeting. And receiving proofs, just all those brilliant highlights. But, lots of waiting along the way, to be totally transparent. Lots of dead time, lots of time where you're not sure what's happening, but lots of stuff goes on behind the scene, I guess.
So when there were meetings with the different publishing houses, did you go to any of those? Were you involved in that process, or was it your agent kind of?
Yeah. I was involved with those early meetings, discussing the book and their ideas. So me, editor, agent, so just all discussing and feeling out, because obviously I need my agent, I need her insight in the decision. It was a big decision, but she was really behind me. Like, she didn't mind that I took, what might have been a smaller offer, because she was just, this feels like the Home Dead Ink are so brilliant. They're such a cult classic publisher.
Yeah.
And they will do your book just such great justice. So that's why I'm so grateful to Imogen, because she didn't push me into a decision that I wasn't comfortable with. She just totally got it and understood it, and she was with me. So
That's incredible. And also that involvement that you've had almost at every step of the way. It feels like you've been really involved as an author, because I've heard some experiences where there's like no say on cover design. And so what was that process like? You spoke about having 2 versions earlier on.
Yeah, no, it's really tough, isn't it? Because publishing isn't an even experience. And so there's definitely lots of people who feel that their voice isn't heard and that things are beyond their control. And that's part of publishing that needs to change. There needs to be like a really even treatment of authors. And that's another whole issue. But I got to say, as I mentioned before, I didn't love the colors of the first design. So I was like, can we try something else? And can we try some different fonts? And they were all really receptive to that. So I got lots of versions, and I could really sit with them. Before the cover design was even done, I get to fill in a questionnaire. And part of that I did like a mood board with covers that I liked and like elements that I wanted to see in it. So it was really collaborative. And I just felt like my opinion really mattered.
Fantastic. What is the best way for our listeners to purchase your book, Katie, and to find you online?
Yeah, so I would always say, in the first instance, it would be amazing if you could order it from your local independent indie store. They can always order books in if they don't have them. They love that. They love hearing about new authors, and that would really help me out as well, because then they'd learn about me and my book. You can order directly from Dead Ink's website, which is great to support them too. But you can also find it in all the other platforms, Waterstones, Foils, Blackwells. Waterstones have a 25% off deal over the next few days, which no one will be able to benefit from when they listen to this, because this is going out in August. But wherever you buy your books, maybe avoiding a certain platform that we all know about. Supporting those independents where you can would be my preference.
Fantastic. I'll put lots of links in the show notes for readers to access those. And finally, we're moving on to our last section. Some tips for writers. Do you have any top tips?
Oh, top tips. I think mine would be let people in. So if you feel comfortable, let people in. If there's a writer friend that you trust, maybe if you want to write together, or if you want to just talk about the writing process or share your work, it really makes a difference. I think that's really brilliant. I would say support authors and their work, where you can enter competitions, as we've discussed today, because they can really be life-changing. And even if you don't get longlisted, it's that you building confidence by putting your work out there, and inviting someone to see you and your work. And I think that's really important practice, because it can be very jarring later on if you've never done so. Little and often with writing, as a chronically ill person, as we've seen with the tips that we spoke about on the post I did for you, it's not about setting yourself unrealistic expectations or being really mean to yourself. It's just saying, look, if I can just get in touch with my work every day in some way, even if it's thinking about it, maybe it's reading back over a scene and making a few notes. Sometimes for me, it's scribbling on the back of a receipt. I've just had an idea for a sentence. It's just stay in touch with that work where you're in that early drafting process, just in light ways, without setting yourself unrealistic goals or expectations.
I'll put a link to that blog post as well, because it is just so packed with tips, and also it was very refreshing to me that I don't have to be doing it all the time. So it's a love letter to exhausted writers, and I felt very seen. It's a beautiful blog post full of lovely advice. I did feel very seen when I read it, Katie. So thank you for that. Are there any writing craft books you'd recommend?
Yeah, there's two that I'm not a massive consumer of like traditional craft books, because like I said before, I find writing, at least for me, can be quite intuitive, but I think there's a lot we can learn still. I really like this one. So In Writing by Hattie Griselle. So this one, what I love about this one is essentially it's written in a way where it's sort of like there's lots of topics about writing and editing and publishing, and a whole cohort of amazing writers have all given like snippets of advice that are from her podcast and beyond. And there's just so many, there's like so many little bits of wisdom in there that really just made me feel. I read this when I was on submission to editors and publishing houses, and I started to feel a bit disillusioned and stuff. And I found that this to be a read about craft, but also about everything to do with being a writer that was so supportive. So that one's amazing. A bit of a classic, good old Steering the Craft. I like dipping in and out of this one because she's so. I just like how frank she is in her advice.
That's Ursula Gwynn, isn't it? Ursula Le Guin, yeah,
absolutely. I like her style. I like how there's no fuss, there's no excess in this book on craft. So those would be my two that I recommend.
And you spoke about a time after book 2 where you felt quite low and potentially was considering giving writing up. What helped you in that moment?
If you are a writer, really a writer in your soul and your heart, no matter how much you throw your toys out the pram or you say to yourself, I'm not doing this anymore, I've had enough, I can't do this, it will just tug you back. It's just undeniable. So I would say just let yourself be upset, let yourself be annoyed, go through that, and then take a moment and just ask yourself, do I want this? And like, can I stop doing this? And if the answer is no, then just gently return.
You're in it for the long haul, whether you like it or not, writers.
You are. I'm sorry.
Our final question. If you could go back to when you first started writing and give yourself just one piece of advice, what would it be?
It would be hang in there. It would be it would just be a sort of a message of resilience. It would just say, like, anything good in life and worth having, it won't be quickly, it won't be magnificently, but it will happen, and you'll learn lots along the way, and that's all part of it. So just keep it on.
Wonderful. A Healthy Appetite is available to purchase now. The link will be in the show notes below, and you can also go straight to Dead Ink website to order from there. Katie, you come across as such an empath and also so generous. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.